on to the scientific sessions, let's take you through this journey of transformational leadership. Everybody kindly be seated. Requesting all the dignitaries and delegates kindly be seated.
Healthcare is built on people. The strongest hospitals, the best outcomes, and the most successful healthcare systems all have one thing in common: a workforce that feels valued, supported, and empowered to grow. With that thought, we move to track 2, workforce sustainability leadership strategies across disciplines. To chair this panel discussion, may I now invite Dr. Jyoti Clara Michael, founder HealthBridge and founder Vice President ANEI, and our co-chairperson, Professor Dr. Manashi Sen Gupta, Dean Faculty of Nursing, Assam Downtown University, and President Northeast Chapter ANEI, to kindly take their seats on the dais.
A huge round of applause, everyone.
I would also like to invite our distinguished panelists, Dr. Avni Oak, Principal KJ Somaya College of Nursing and member ANEI, Dr. Parag Rindani, Group CEO Wockhardt Hospitals Limited, and Dr. Neil Sequeira, COO Thane Cancer Hospitals. May I request our chairperson, co-chairpersons, and panelists to kindly take their seats on the dais. With that, I have the pleasure of handing over the proceedings to our chairperson, Dr. Jyoti Clara Michael, ma'am. On to you, ma'am.
A warm morning wishes to one and all. We are very glad that we are here to unfold the track 1. The track 1 is workforce sustainability leadership strategy across discipline. Today's workflow sustainability is no longer a future concern. Do you all believe with me? Yes. And it is a present leadership priority. And that is what this particular panel will unfold. Across healthcare system, we are witnessing increasing burnout, workforce attrition, skill mix challenges, and the urgent need to prepare teams for a rapid changing future. At the same time, we also know that sustainability is not only about retaining people. Sustainability is not about retaining people. It is about creating an environment where professionals can thrive, grow, collaborate, and continually deliver safe, compassionate, and high quality care. And that is what is all about, is our concern and the priority. Today's discussion is not about the problem. So none of us here are going to talk about the problems, but we all are going to be giving some of the strategies through the experience, the knowledge that in each of the diverse experience that we have got. And it is all about what is working. What is working, what leadership strategies are creating impact, and what we must do differently moving forward.
Once again, warm good morning to one and all present here. So we are very delighted to be joined by distinguished panelists representing diverse disciplines and leadership experiences. We are very fortunate that we have with us, they are very known for their leadership in workforce transformation and organizational development. A strong advocate for interdisciplinary collaboration and patient-centered care is the workforce models, whose work focuses on innovation, staff engagement, and quality improvement, bringing valuable insights in education, retention, and future workforce readiness.
So the first round is going to be on the perspectives. Perspectives are very important. And may I request each of you to give one critical challenge to workforce sustainability from your discipline and one leadership strategy that is actually working. Just one. Over to you. You may take a choice. There is no order in it.
So, good afternoon, everybody. And I think if the nursing executives wish to learn, it would be...
Excuse me, may I request the audience to keep silence? An important discussion is on. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Madam Co-Chairperson. Thank you very much, Annie, for this invitation. I also happen to represent CAHO here. So let's talk about the intersection of quality of work-life balance, and how we are actually going to take things forward. To my mind, one of the biggest challenges today is not just the sheer dearth of nursing numbers. Even those nurses who are with us on the floors, one of the bigger challenges that we are seeing today, especially with the Gen Z nurses, is this whole problem of emotional disengagement. What we expect in terms of the empathy from nurses and doctors today, and I'm including doctors here, it has become more of transactional engagement. There is a procedure to be done, there is a billing to be done. There is a consumable use, it has to be raised in the hospital information system. So I think that what is relevant is that we recognize the fact that emotional disengagement is something that we need to deal with. Today we have nurses who are on the floor, but all they're looking for is, how do I get my shift over and go back, because I've got to download something, I've got to make a reel, I've got to do something else which is equally important to me. 10 years ago, nurses used to be dedicated more to the profession, less even to their children and spouses. Today that is changing, and I think this emotional disengagement with the job is something that's hitting us very hard. 3 important things probably we can do to sort of create a safety net for the people. One, of course, is to create a sense of psychological well-being. I don't think our nurses feel psychologically very empowered in terms of the way they are dealt with, in terms of the way even nursing executives deal with their juniors. I think the second thing is, today's people, they leave nursing because they find more opportunities in management, they find better opportunities on the sales force somewhere. So how does one create the sense of career progression for them? How does one tell a nurse that you're going to grow? You do your, like we, for example, at Wockhardt Hospitals, we sponsor nurses for their PBBSc. You've done your GNM, let's sponsor you for your PBBSc. You stay with us for 2 years after that, and that's when the so-called bond ends. When a person is committing themselves to grow in terms of their own knowledge, which is something which they'll take away with themselves for life, I think it becomes extremely relevant to work towards that direction. And I think the third thing is the entire gamut of inter-silo working towards sort of getting better outcomes overall. As we across the country work towards better outcomes, it's extremely important for us to involve nurses in each and every aspect. When a nurse is involved with the clinicians and actually shaping clinical outcomes, that's when they realize that yes, I matter, my voice matters. Till nurses are not empowered enough to get their voices matter, I think this whole emotional disengagement piece is something that will continue. I think it is incumbent upon members of ANEI to recognize these challenges early and to start working with Gen Z. Strategy-wise, it's very difficult to articulate strategies. I think that's what this group is gathered here today, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. Your points are very clear. Psychological well-being, career progression, and helping them to hear their voice. So that is what he has told. Now let us hear from ma'am.
First of all, I would like to thank Annie for giving me this opportunity to present my views in front of the August gathering. I think at present the workforce sustainability is not about just retaining, but creating an environment in your institute so that the faculty or the nurse who is working in the institute feels that they need to come. One of the strategies, so I am talking it from, as I am a principal of Nursing Institute, I am talking about a strategy that has worked for us, and we call it as a feast. Okay, so it is faculty, education and empowerment, support and teamwork. So making strategies which are empowering them, so conducting the in-service educations, seeing through it that we sponsor them for conferences, having policies which are recognizing after they do MSc or any course, interdisciplinary course also, giving them some additional motivation through remunerations, having a counselor appointed even for the faculty. And another thing that we have also tried to do in our institute is just to see that there is teamwork. So before every faculty meeting, we have what is called as faculty engagement activities, which are just games which bring about a teamwork and ensuring that each one's voice is heard. So including them in all the committees, including them in the decision making. And I think this feast is really a feast, and the retention in our institute has reduced than what it was before.
Thank you, Dr. Oak. That was wonderful. All of you heard feast. So I think feast is one of the acronym that we have to recollect and remember. Probably we can also reproduce in all our institutions. That was really nice. And over to Dr. Neil.
Firstly, thank you for having me here. It always gives me an opportunity to meet so many of you who I actually learned healthcare from. So the year was 1961. India was grappling with malnutrition, infant mortality, and so many other things. A young scientist went to the then Prime Minister and he said, I want to take India to space. The Prime Minister told him, I really appreciate what you want to do, but, I've got so many other problems. But you can go and find your way. He had studied the entire demographics of India. And now for your information, to launch anything into space, you need an equatorial point. The man had found that the equatorial point was in a village slightly away from Thiruvananthapuram, a small fishing village called Tumba. So he said, wow, but there was a problem. At that exact place stood a church. But this man was not willing to give up. He went to that place and met the parish priest of St. Mary Magdalene Church. And he told him, this is what my plan is. Now I want you to fathom this. There is a man of God and there is a man of science. But then the priest said, see, I appreciate what you're trying to do, though I don't understand. But for me to allow you to do anything in my premises, I need the permission of the parishioners. So it was a Sunday morning mass. At the sermon at the 8:30 mass in the morning, the priest told his parishioners, all of them fishermen, that there is this man who wants to put a rocket into space. What do you think? Imagine fishermen, illiterate, they all shouted amen. The priest called the scientist, who was a young Vikram Sarabhai. He said, you can start work. You can use my office. The parish office became the design center. The cattle shed next to it became the assembly center. A young scientist who later became the President of India, Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he joined there. They started assembling the rockets. On 21st November 1963, from this small village in a sleepish town, India launched its first rocket into space called as the Nike Apache.
Isn't it? Please give a round of applause.
And I want you to think, when we look at it in today's context, illiterate fishermen, they could always say, no, this is church. A parish priest who said, no, this is the place where my people pray. A young scientist who could have always said, what will the priest understand of science? But you know what was? There was one word they all agreed to collaborate for the larger good of India, mankind, etc. My dear friends, sustainability is only about collaboration. You know, if different verticals in a hospital collaborate and say, let us try to actually take care of one another's pain points, I think that is, you have nearly reached there. So coming to actual challenges that you talked about,
Solution to challenges.
I think,
Solution to challenges.
Yeah, I'll tell you. ANEI is very solution oriented. I think honestly, it's understanding the mindset of your new nurses and the new generation. And let me tell you, while I understand and I appreciate that nursing is a very tall and a very strong, rigid hierarchical structure where A reports to B, B reports to C, and D and so on. And it's required. You have to mentally break down those barriers. It's very important that nursing heads go and talk to the person who has joined recently in your organization, understand. And let me tell all of my senior dear nurses over here, it is you who have to change. They are not going to change. Look at your homes.
Very correct.
Amazing.
Look at your homes.
Powerful perspective.
Every day your children are telling you, you are wrong. You are unable to tell them you are wrong. If you tell them, no, I think you are wrong, they'll say, gosh, you'll never understand. Right? So please, mentally, and that is the collaboration within your departments. Secondly, I think that the big solution lies, I know we keep on talking about shortage. Collaboration of the education system with the actual ground. How can you go back to your colleges and go back to the system and improve? I understand all of you have got, syllabuses of the great MUHS. But you can always add value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Neil. That was a right hit on the spot. So you made it very clear, breaking down the hierarchy would be the best strategy, and getting to hear to the younger nurses, those who are growing, is more important. And of all you said, blessings is important, but beyond that, science is very strategic. Thank you so much. Over to you.
So thank you once again. So that's give a very clear picture of the realities across disciplines. Now let us shift from our focus to some insight to action and explore what we can build together. So I'll be asking questions to our first panelist, to Dr. Parag. How you can move from an individual initiative to a system approach?
So, W. Edwards Deming very clearly said that all mistakes belong to the system and the system belongs to management. So acknowledging that these systems are only, in Gujarati we say, Manas matra khichdi khawane patra. Insan matra khichdi paka ke kha sakta hai. To Err is Human was a hallmark report which was published way back in 2001 before we even knew what accreditation was. I think classic examples of setting up systems approach has been the joint governance model that's come up at our hospital, for example. I have Elizabeth Joseph here, who was part of setting up the nursing governance team. And when you're able to tie down the nursing governance along with the clinical governance, can come up with what is called a shared quality agenda for the institution. So it's not just the cardiologist who's responsible for the outcome of a Mayo score, which is good, bad, ugly. I think it's important for the ER nurses to get involved. It's important for the cath lab nurses to get involved. If you're looking, for example, at outcomes for a stroke, if you're talking about setting up a system, we set up something called a code-white protocol across the hospital. Now, would we have been able to do it had only the ER physician decided to call a code-white? No. You need the nurses to get trained in the NIHSS. You need the doctors to collaborate also with the nurses. So I think the only way in which you can build a strong system rather than having... The other problem is when an individual nurse moves as a chief of nursing, we have problems because the next nurse brings on her sort of baggage from her in a previous institution and so on and so forth. I think it's very important that if you want to systematize things, you need to have strong shared clinical and nursing governance structures. till nurses also, by the way, let me tell you, one thing that all of you must realize, and I want to understand whether you agree with me or no. Do you think nurses are professionals? Yes or no? Absolutely right. Few factors. One, it's a full 4-year education degree. Two, you've got the Indian Nursing Council registration, which mandates you to register, and only professionals have registration and licensure bodies. But not always do we behave like professionals, especially in what we call Bharat. Annie probably needs to go deeper into Bharat, represents Bharat more, because that's where bulk of the nursing is sitting. And I think when you talk about tier 2, tier 3 cities, that's where we don't get the respect that professionals are supposed to get. You can only have shared governance practices between doctors, nurses, technologists, management, if nurses are respected as professionals. The moment you move away from an individual approach saying, oh, nurse, do this, even when she's not supposed to do it, you have nurses who keep doing non-nursing duties like clerical work. You want a clerk, hire a clerk. Don't waste madam's students in doing clerical documentation. This is where you can move away from an individual approach to a systemic approach. But for that, ANI needs to ensure its own members are able to say no when no is supposed to be said. I'll take you back to Pink, where Amitabh Bachchan clearly said, no is a sentence. And the way you decide to say no can depend on your bosses. But if you want to move from being individual success leaders and having individual successes to growth-based group success stories, you will have to work together with people and say we are equals, we are going to work together, and we are going to cobble the future of medicine together. Doctors alone cannot cobble the future of medicine alone. You will need the nursing fraternity, and you need them to come and stand equally, not subservient. Our problem is we have perennially been subservient in the behavior. I'm not even getting into salaries and stuff, but I'm saying we've perennially been subservient. Remember, nursing duties only a nurse can do. The doctor cannot do nursing duties at all. And therefore, neither should the nurse aspire to do doctor duties. Yes, I know there is nurse practitioner coming up, and we respect that. But otherwise, we really need to move on and become equal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You are very correctly pointing out about interdisciplinary collaboration and what should be the systemic focus. So, my next question to you, ma'am. If you had to implement one cross-disciplinary leadership intervention in the next 12 months, what would it be, and how you are going to measure the success?
If I have to, implement one leadership strategy, I think what I will do is one is collaborative leadership, where I take account of all the stakeholders which are there, and along with it, an innovation hub. Because this Gen Z which are there are very, very creative. They have lots of ideas, and if we just motivate them and expose them in the right sense, they can do wonders. I can just share one experience which I had recently. We had an innovation contest, and there were 42 entries which we received from nurses, and they had such wonderful innovations. And these innovations were something that they had created looking at the problems in the patient care. One such innovation was, okay, we know that in the wards there are lots of IVs which go together, and we want to prevent air from entering into the IV. So they had created alarms for each. So as soon as that alarm is rung, the nurse would know that I have to immediately go to that bedside. So I think the way forward to ensure that this education doesn't remain in the four walls and neither in the hospitals is also to ensure we create entrepreneurs and give them a cross interdisciplinary exposure, so that it is not limited that a nurse who has finished BSc nursing need not only become as a nurse educator or a staff nurse, but they can remove or file their own patents or copyrights or even their own business. I think this is what will help.
Thank you so much, because nowadays in the university, they give so much of fund for the young researchers, scientists, as well as, the university is giving fund for the seed grant. So definitely it will be a great idea, ma'am, what you are sharing your thoughts. My question to you, sir, the same question I would also like to put forward. If you had to implement one cross-disciplinary leadership intervention in the next 12 months, what it would be and how you are going to measure the success?
I would want to include nursing in everything that is done. You know, now this may sound a little over outlandish, but
Please repeat that again.
I would want to
Please repeat.
I would want to include nursing in everything that is done.
Have you all heard? Yeah.
Now let me tell you reason. And this, so I came into healthcare in 2010, and most of healthcare was taught to me by a group of nurses who used to sit in my next cabin at Hinduja. There was the staff development team. I mean, Rupali is over here. There was a girl called Smita, Now, when I went on my rounds, I used to see a young girl who's probably 24, 25, who knows everything that is happening on that particular floor, multitasking, leaving that book and running after the surgeon to brief him, coming back and finishing off her work and everything.
Please
So
give
I
a
believe,
round of applause. The
I
young
believe
nurse.
that if I want to know how power saving has to be done in my hospital, a nurse knows exactly which room is occupied, which room is not occupied, where can I save power. I think most of us want to do changes in a system only looking within our departments. And that includes when I talk about HR, when it is cost cutting, we look at just straight away slashing. I think that if you use the same collaborative approach while you're designing, while you're developing, when you're troubleshooting, or whether you're progressively looking at careers, I think it brings about a lot of change.
Thank you, Dr. Neil. That is very clear. How many of you believe that we are involved when a ward is designed or a hospital is constructed? Very less. Very few. I think majority should be involved right from the designing of the hospital, designing of a ward, because nurses know better how should the nurses station be designed, what all things should be included and involved. So
I'll just add one thing here. But again, it is the situation is such that you have to be competent enough to look into we are talking of actually, standing up to clinicians in many cases. I mean, and I have seen that happen at some of the hospitals, and a nurse can actually look, and it happens at Tata Memorial, where a nurse actually looks at a resident who's suturing and saying, that's not the right way you're suturing. Now, she is able to do that because she's got competence. So it's very important that you build in your competence, because that is the biggest sword that you have to fight for yourself and actually to stand and take a seat at the table.
probably for each of you, one is, where do nurses lead in this model? Not just a participant, like what more she could do. If at all we bring in a model where nurses are participating, as Dr. Neil said, like what would be the best model in your thought? Dr. Parag. You have to design a model now.
I think the models are all there. It's just about giving them the appropriate place at the table. I think first and foremost, I just want to tell one giveaway message from CEOs to nursing leaders is that while we vie for the, I want to do more, we must also introspect and ensure that we look, people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. I think competence building, as Neil also said, is something very important. We should recognize that we are also fallible and therefore we can make mistakes. So first of all, acknowledgement of the fact that as a department running 300, 500, 700 nurses, we need to be careful about our own mistakes first. That you are one of the key pillars of the hospital, that there are other pillars who also are supposed to do their work, and not everybody is there to be against you as an institutional member. Somehow nurses always feel, and I know I'm going to get beaten up by all my lovely friends out there, but when finance says something to you, when supply chain comes to you with a proposal, they have their own KRAs to accomplish. So I think that team member, empowered team member, is a perfect designation for any nurse to get into any improvement initiative, governance initiative, financial management initiative, etc. But one more thing, remember, with the type of financial pressures that we are coming into, nurse as a governance member, understanding unit revenue management, unit revenue leakages, is something that you'll have to come up and work with. Whether ANEICON takes it up or takes it up or somebody else takes it up, I think it's important to also focus on financial management.
Thank you so much. And now we are going for a rapid fire, just 2-3 questions, and then we are closing. We are close to the end. One word. Madam, you, in one word, what does a future-ready workforce mean to you?
Collaboration.
Thank you. In one word, one leadership behavior we must stop. Dr. Neil.
You have to stop talking and learn to listen.
Thank you. Dr. Parag. Dr. Parag, one action we must start tomorrow.
One action
we must start tomorrow.
One action we must start tomorrow is becoming tech savvy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very important.
Dr. Neil, one quality every healthcare leader must develop now.
Sensitivity.
Thank you. Madam, you, one thing that retains people beyond salary.
Creating environment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for patient listening. We are coming to the conclusion. I would like to sum up saying 3 important statements here. One is workforce sustainability requires intentional leadership and not reactive staffing. Second, cross-discipline collaboration is no longer optional. It is essential for resilient healthcare system, so we have to follow that. The third one is sustainability improves only when leadership action are measurable, accountable, and consistently supported. That is why we have all 3 diverse leaders seated here, and we have to remember at the end the feast term, the synonym feast, and no is a statement. Let us speak this statement often where it is relevant and where it is important. And innovation is a means to collaboration, so let us focus more to cultivate the mindset for innovation and include nurses in everything. So there is a request. There are very few CEOs, very few leaders here, but this message I think would reach to all CEOs, all the leaders in the hospital. But the final thing is, the key is with each of us. We are holding the key. Let us give it a chance. And we have to take the first step. It will not be given. We have to take it. Thank you so much. And thanks to you. Thanks to all of you. I hope we kept the time and we have done.
Yes, ma'am. A big thank you to the entire team of panelists. Can we have a huge round of applause? Your perspectives have reminded us that investing in people is the foundation of sustainable healthcare. May I now request the entire team of panelists to gather at the designated photo corner for a group photo.